President Maduro of Venezuela and the country's electoral authorities have rejected accusations of fraud in last Sunday's vote for a new constituent assembly. The company behind the voting system has said it was tampered with to inflate the turnout and that the real figures were at least 1 million below the government's estimate of over 8 million. Before a televised gathering of supporters, Nicolas Maduro turned on what he called a firm with its headquarters in London and bank accounts in the US. The stupid president of Smartmatic, pressurized by the gringos and the British, said there were over 7 million voters, he said. I believe there were more than 10 million who came out onto the streets, with more than 8 million voting. The rest had to face the barricades. Turnout is seen as a key indicator of government support. The president also criticized a claim by Reuters citing internal documents as casting doubt on official figures. Venezuela's Attorney General, who'd already called the new Constituent Assembly illegitimate, says she's launched an investigation into the vote. The new assembly will have the power to sack her and dissolve the opposition-run Congress. Last month, the Congress swore in more than 30 judges in defiance of the pro-government Supreme Court, which promptly declared the appointments unconstitutional. At least 3 judges have been detained, while another 3 have taken refuge in the Chilean ambassador's residence in Caracas. International condemnation has been widespread, with Maduro accused of a power grab and presiding over economic chaos. He says the new assembly is needed to bring peace and stability.
These Iraqi families can finally return to Mosul after months of fighting between government troops and Islamic State group militants. For 3 years, the city's historic center was the heart of ISIL's self-proclaimed caliphate. But now most of it lies in rubble. 80% of Mosul's buildings and roads have been destroyed in the nearly 9-month battle to reclaim the city, according to the Iraq Reconstruction Fund. Have you ever seen people live in houses like these? Nobody can. There are dead bodies inside and the smell is terrible. At the very least, all this rubbish should be cleared. At the city's general hospital, the International Red Cross has been treating thousands of people, including wounded children. Like 6-year-old Khaled. He says he got a bullet from a machine gun. And now he wants to fight and go to war. Almost 1 million people fled Mosul during the fighting. So far, a quarter of them have returned to their homes.
Iran claims the nuclear deal agreed with world powers has been violated by new US sanctions voted by Congress and signed through by President Trump. Iran's Deputy Foreign Affairs Minister has vowed to respond appropriately, according to state TV. Abbas Araghchi reportedly said the authority monitoring the accord, which includes President Rouhani, had drawn up 16 measures in response without giving details. The accord between Tehran and 6 world powers limits Iran's nuclear program to civilian use in exchange for the gradual lifting of international sanctions. But the Trump administration's hostility to Iran, it strongly criticized the nuclear agreement, contrasts starkly with Washington's stance under President Obama. The deal struck 2 years ago also came during Hassan Rouhani's watch. Today he's been formally endorsed by the Supreme Leader as president for a 2nd term. But despite his landslide election victory, conservatives accuse him of making too many concessions to world powers. The US Vice President visiting Montenegro has said the region's future lies in the West. The ex-Yugoslav republic recently joined NATO in spite of Russia's hostility. Mike Pence's comments came at the end of a European tour designed to reassure countries over Washington's commitment to Eastern European security amid misgivings over the Trump administration's stance.
We truly believe the future of the Western Balkans is in the West, and we look forward to reaffirming the commitment of the United States to build the relationships that will strengthen the ties between the European community, the Western Balkans, and the United States of America.
Montenegro joined several other countries in the region who are also NATO members. The US Vice President attended a summit of the Adriatic Charter, including several other non-member nations. For Prime Minister Duško Marković, it was perhaps a welcome rehabilitation compared to the dismissive treatment he experienced at the hands of President Trump at the NATO summit in May.
A suicide bomber has attacked a convoy of international troops in the Afghan city of Kandahar. The NATO-led mission Resolute Support confirmed there had been casualties. A statement said further information was being gathered. Kandahar Airport is home to a major coalition airbase where 13,000 international troops help Afghan security forces. I was working in the area and saw a convoy of foreigners passing by the road when suddenly a huge explosion occurred, said this witness. Right after the explosion, the area was covered with dust and smoke, and then I saw a tank of foreigners had caught fire. The Pentagon has asked for up to 4,000 more troops for Afghanistan, but the New York Times has reported the White House is considering withdrawing forces and replacing them with private contractors.
Two people were killed and 9 injured after a gas explosion tore through a Christian private school in Minneapolis in the U.S. Authorities say the blast started a fire and caused a building to collapse.
Kids were out playing soccer, and it felt, well, just that night out last night, we were talking about sonic booms, and it felt exactly like a sonic boom. And the compression and the bang, and all you saw was a cloud of smoke, dust, debris, and I just took off running.
Authorities said contractors were working on the building's gas lines at the time of the explosion. 2 bodies were recovered from the rubble. The victims are believed to be school employees. One of those injured was in critical condition.
German car makers have agreed with top politicians to cut harmful emissions by updating the software in 5.3 million diesel-powered vehicles. The deal with Daimler, BMW, Volkswagen and Opel is aimed at reducing inner-city pollution whilst averting bans on diesel vehicles. The industry's been under pressure since Volkswagen admitted to cheating US diesel emissions tests in September 2015. We had planned to make some decisions at this summit, which will reduce emissions and protect the health of the public, and also comply with the emissions limits and avoid general driving bans. We can only achieve this by implementing several measures concurrently. The issue has become a central campaign topic ahead of next month's national election, prompting the government to show it's taking action as environmental groups try to force bans on diesel vehicles.
E televidente, momento para um espaço comercial, agora nós estamos back no Informe Deportivo.